Welcome to the WACE AM 730 Community Service Program. This is a program that showcases nonprofits and services that may benefit our listeners. Welcome to the WACE AM 730 Community Service Program. I'm your host, Joe Ott, and today we have with us Cory MacDonald of the Greater Media Foundation to speak on choroideremia, or CHM. Thank you for joining us, Cory, and welcome.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate the time.
Well, you're welcome, Cory, and I know you're a busy man. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself, first of all.
Well, first of all, I'm a patient with choroideremia. I was born with it. It's an X-linked disorder, so it passes down in families. My mom was a carrier. I have an affected brother, several cousins, that kind of thing. So I was born with it, but didn't know at the time. I spend my days, I used to work in the production world, but had to walk away from that due to the fact that I became legally blind. And then luckily enough, I was kind of hooked up with some other people. We call ourselves CHMers. It's a lot easier than saying choroideremia patient. And a few of us, we formed our foundation about 20 years ago. And so I've been working out of the home ever since then and promoting and raising money and trying to raise awareness and that kind of stuff throughout the years.
Can you explain to our listeners what choroideremia is, how it affects people?
Sure. It's a retinal degenerative disease. It starts in early age with night blindness. So, for example, I don't recall ever seeing stars in the sky. My mom said I could see them till I was about 6, but, and of course things like playing hide and seek with your friends at nighttime when you're a kid is kind of impossible with this. And then as you get into your teens, you start losing your peripheral vision. And as you get into your 20s and then into your 30s, the peripheral vision keeps shrinking down slowly until you end up with they call it tunnel vision, where it's kind of like looking through straws. And then that's when you start losing your depth perception and your color perception. The night vision gets worse and eventually leads to total blindness.
That's awful. Wow. And being a fairly new, at least I've never heard of it. I don't know, how long has it been around in the public square there?
Well, it was first given a name in the mid-50s.
50s.
But it's a very rare condition. It affects about 1 in 50,000 people. So it's estimated 6,500 to 7,000 people in the U.S. that have it. And I've met eye doctors over the years who have been in practice for many, many years that have never seen a patient with this eye disease.
Now, is this specific race, Cory, or gender that gets choroideremia, or is it just anywhere?
It's anywhere, although being an X-linked disorder, typically males are affected and women carry it. However, there are rare cases where women, too, are fully affected. So from a gender perspective, it's mainly a male-only disease, but there's those exceptions. And many carriers, as they get older, into their 40s or so, they start experiencing mild symptoms. So, like, when they get into their 40s, many carriers start having issues with night blindness and sensitivity to glare, which is what we suffer as kids. So... and then as for demographically, it seems to be, although, I've met, as a matter of fact, I have a call tomorrow with a gentleman from China who has this eye disease, and I know of people of Japanese descent, and many Europeans. It seems to be mostly European, but there's pockets everywhere else, and more recently I've made contact with a few people from the Middle East who also have it, and several in India as well.
Are there any factors that might contribute to having choroideremia as far as diet or predisposition to certain habits or something of that nature?
No, not at all. Actually, it's a straightforward. We call it the CHM gene, and it's there is either a deletion or a mutation on that particular gene that causes the disease. So it's kind of like hemophilia or boy in the bubble disease or any other type of genetic disorder.
Purely genetic. Okay. So now we know what it is, pretty much choroideremia. At least we know what the factors are involved with it. What is being done either locally, nationally, globally, as far as trying to pin this down, find a cure for it? What are we doing? What are scientists doing?
It is, well, right now we are, and I just, I had that advantage of being one of the founders of our foundation, so I have that long view where I can see where we were 20 years ago when we formed,
Mm-hmm.
and there was no research going on with choroideremia at that point. It's too rare. What big company is going to invest millions of dollars into a disease that affects 1 in 50,000 people, which is what inspired a few of us that have this disease to form our own foundation, do what we can. And so in 20 years, we've gone from no research at all to being, if things go right, there will be an FDA-approved gene therapy to stop the progression towards blindness by this time next year.
Really? That's fantastic.
Yeah. I myself am a phase 3 trial patient in the gene therapy human trials.
Well, we wish you the best for that situation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Then locally here in Springfield, I normally, pre-COVID, I was holding just last October, I held my 5th annual Dining in the Dark event at the Castle of Nights in Chicopee.
Oh, yeah.
And which is a lot of fun. We have a big giant raffle and live music. The key thing is that you're handed a sleep mask when you walk in the door.
A sleep mask. Okay.
A sleep mask, and you get to try to eat dinner without being able to see it.
Oh, my goodness.
Which is what we experience. If I go into a dark restaurant.
Yeah, that's true.
That's really how I'm eating dinner. I don't see it.
Wow.
And so it gives people, pardon the pun, but it truly is an eye-opening experience for some.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you have a sense of humor about it, but it is a serious situation, and I guess we take things for granted as those not being sight challenged, that
Mm-hmm.
That it is things that we don't think about or take for granted. And being COVID now and everything that's going on with COVID, my past several programs, I've talked with people about how it's affecting, of course, research, anything has it slowed down the progress of the research, or is it's still on track?
It's still on track, actually. Because, luckily, they treated the last patients in the trial in October of last year. And so the protocols require them to follow those patients for a year, but those are just, checkups, basically, going into the center and being run through a battery of testing. Matter of fact, I head out to Oregon next week for my latest batch of testing.
For yourself.
So it didn't slow it down, really. They're on track, let's put it that way, to finish up the last of the patients this month, because they have to be followed for 1 year to collect all their data.
Mm-hmm.
And so finish that up this month and compile the data, get it submitted to the FDA, and work through that whole process. So at least at this point, everything is still on track for, like I said, hopefully by this time next year it will be approved.
Very good. Well, we'll have you on the program hopefully next year to talk about that.
That would be, it would be. It's a game changer. I mean, there's only one approved gene therapy in the world right now, and that was one that was developed at the University of Pennsylvania, and it's for a disease even more rare than mine, and that's been approved for, it'll be 3 years coming up this December.
You don't hear too much about, you don't hear too much about gene therapy out there. You hear about stem cell research and everything. Why gene therapy? Do you know anything why they picked gene therapy? It's more successful, or?
Well, yeah, and gene therapy is actually further advanced. You do hear a lot about stem cell therapy, and every now and then you'll see a news story and gene therapy and boom, 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 and then you never hear anything about it again. The reason being is the fact that the science is not quite as far along as you would think it is. So when you hear about those successes, they're kind of like one-offs, and it's like, okay, well, can we replicate it? Not really. Let's try this again, and So, but that is, it is coming.
Very good.
That is something that, that is, gene therapy is designed to stop progress, and stem cell therapy is designed to replace what we've lost.
Okay.
So it's kind of a two-prong attack on our eye disease, is that, first, let's keep ourselves from losing the rest of our sight. And second, let's see what we can do about getting back what we've lost. And so we're on to, that track now, where we are funding that research as well.
Very good, Cory. For gene therapy now, do they take genes obviously from the person that's being treated, right?
No, actually. No? It's an interesting process. What they do is it's what they call a subretinal surgery. Mm-hmm. And they take a gene, a corrected copy of the gene that's been literally manufactured in the lab, and they attach it to a virus. Hmm. And don't think bad when you think virus. Right. The virus is, it's basically just a mechanism to carry things, mm-hmm. like a flatbed truck carrying a car.
Right.
And they inject this virus carrying the new gene in behind the retina, and the virus infects the cells with the corrected copy of the gene, so that the cells then will function properly and not die off.
That is something. Wow. Well, it sounds like it's a promising, that is, things are going in your direction, for everyone's direction that are affected by choroideremia. I said it wrong. I said it right, choroideremia. Sorry about that. Choroideremia.
Yeah.
And CHM. And Cory, if someone out there listening I think at this point, if they're older, they might not have it. It might be something else, like some other glaucoma or something like that. But you say they usually get it when they're younger. Maybe there's a mother out there that's concerned about their child and thinking of, who do I talk to? Do I just talk to a regular eye doctor? Do I go to a specialist? Who would they go to around this area that you would suggest?
The best place to go around here is to call up the Berman Gund Lab at the Massachusetts Eye and Ear Infirmary.
And where's that again?
In Boston.
In Boston.
Yes, part of Harvard Medical. And that's actually where I was diagnosed in 1968.
Very good. Cory, people out there listening may want to either give monies to your foundation to help research, or any information or any fundraisers they may have in the area. Maybe you can give some numbers and addresses for our listeners.
Yeah, like I said, unfortunately, due to COVID, that's kind of put the kibosh on all kinds of, events and gatherings. But we do have a website, which is www.curechm, so that's CURECHM.org. And there's a donate link right on the site, and there is tons of information, both for medical professionals and people that are just curious about the eye disease, or people that have it. It's got lots of information. And then, of course, if they're looking for more info, they can always just email info@curechm.org, and that comes to me. And if I don't know an answer, then I know who to ask.
Very good. Cory MacDonald from the Choroideremia Research Foundation, speaking on choroideremia. And thank you so much for being with us today on the WACE Community Service Program. Thanks, Cory.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks. I appreciate it.
I wish you the best.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. You've been listening to the WACE AM 730 Community Service Program, a program that informs the listening audience of important events in their community. If you would like more information or to be on the program, you can reach us at www.waceradio.com/.